Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, we've spent a couple of shows, couple of weeks talking about contractors for things that have to do with the outside of our homes.
Yes.
And it's springtime and it's a good time to do it.
Yes, it is.
We're going to continue that today, except we're going to be moving to the inside of the home.
Okay.
And we're going to be talking about a new company in Moore County.
Mm-hmm.
They're not new, but they're new here, and they're called Ripple Fiber.
I've seen their bright yellow logo all over the place.
That's how I got introduced to them.
Mm-hmm.
They left a tag either on a mailbox of a home in Knollwood Heights that I had been renovating, and I noticed there were trucks outside, and they were doing some digging and laying what I thought, and they're going to correct me because I'm a second grader when it comes to this. And
You and me both.
Right up front, I'm just going to say, I was born in the 50s. You know, what do you want me to say? And these yellow neon hangers, so to speak, caught my eye.
They can't help but catch your eye. They're so bright.
Well, I knew in the Knollwood area there are some dead spots.
Are there?
Yes, for service, where you get interrupted internet service, sometimes interrupted phone service. The signal is not always strong. And where I live in Southern Pines, it's not the case. But in Knollwood, you know, just as you drive on PD Road, there are pockets where you get drop calls and such. So I contacted a gentleman by the name of Caleb Tanner, and he is a salesman for Ripple Fiber, and he told me that they're about ready to be set up here in Moore County in the next month or so.
Nice.
I'm also being joined by Kylar Martin, who is a regional executive of Ripple Fiber, and Dan Lee, who is a sales manager. I guess I'll say good morning, first of all, to all three of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dan, are you the sales manager here in Moore County, or you cover a much larger geographic area?
Just here in Moore County, so Southern Pines, Pinehurst. We're looking at Whispering Pines, Carthage, Weston, all these areas too. So just Moore County.
Tell me a little bit about the company Ripple Fiber, where they originated from, how long they've been in business, and why did you select Moore County?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kylar.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ripple Fiber originated in Matthews, North Carolina. That was our proof of concept. So we're a North Carolina native company, which is awesome to say. And a lot of people love that about us too. But we did originate in Matthews, North Carolina. We then moved to the Outer Banks. So we went to Outer Banks, North Carolina, and now we're in the Pinehurst, Southern Pines area. Long story short, there are a lot of things that need to happen in order to move to different counties and cities, such as we have an area selection committee that basically looks at each city and sees how much fiber is in the city and if it's a need in the community. And we determined in the Pinehurst Southern Pines area that there's a huge need for fiber optics here. We realized there's a lot of coax, which is not fiber optics. It's 1916s, 1970s cable that was put through, and that was specifically for phone lines and television. And so what companies like to do with those coax is basically rewire it to be internet, home phone, and television. So that's why fiber optics is so important. It's just a dedicated line that'll go to the back of the modem of each individual's home to give them more reliable network speeds.
So when you say coax, is that another word for cable?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Oh, see, I knew something. I mean, that's about it. So I know in my house I have an orange cable from the street, and I know it gets cut when I have irrigation work done sometimes. I know we have to call, is it 811?
811.
Okay, the locator, sometimes to mark lines because we're afraid of damaging something. And I also know that I get thrown off the internet a lot when the weather is very bad. I've noticed in heavy rains, and I don't quite understand why that is. So what are you putting underground that's different from what someone like me has?
So it's going to be fiber optic glass. So with glass, it's less prone to susceptible to any damages, natural events, animals and whatnot. When it's old coaxial cables,
Animals too. That's exactly
it wears
right.
and tears over time. So with old coax, it'll have to eventually be replaced. And with replacing that, they have to kind of dig everything back up. The good thing about this conduit with fiber optic, if they need to replace the fiber line itself, they can just shoot the new line through. So it's less construction involved, less replacement involved with fiber optic.
Okay, explain how fiber optic works differently from the traditional cable internet setup that me and I'm sure a lot of other people have.
Yeah, so essentially fiber optic cables consist of tiny glass fibers that transmit data using pulses of light, which allows that data to travel at the speed of light. The avenue also allows for multiple signals to travel at the same time, promoting a level of efficiency that is difficult to match. It's a future-proof solution. Fiber internet offers many benefits of over other services, such as increased speed and bandwidth, enhanced reliability and stability, better upload and download speeds, and that one's really important. So the upload and download speeds, any fiber optic company, the fiber optic gives you that symmetrical upload and download speeds. With that old coax cable that's put in the ground in 1960s and 70s, you may be paying for 300 megabytes per second, but you may be only getting 200, 250, 100 based on what equipment you're using as a download speed. But that upload speed is tremendously hindered using that old infrastructure, which makes fiber optics a clear advantage with the fiber optic system.
So you have to survey an area, and then you have a lot of capital costs that you have to put into the ground. Can you explain what? Because I think when I was renovating the Knollwood Heights home, I think I saw your trucks out there. There was some digging being done, and is it a very expensive process?
Absolutely, yeah, it's a very expensive process, and Ripple Fiber does all this in communities that want us. We don't charge HOAs, or we don't charge anybody anything for our infrastructure. We wanna ensure that anybody who doesn't have access to this infrastructure may have access to the infrastructure. So any areas that we select, it's we're not charging any individuals to lay our own infrastructure out there.
Okay, so so the fiber optic is laid in the ground through the sleeves, and then what do you have to do to hook it up to the house? What's required of the homeowner? What kind of equipment do they need in the house? How does that all work?
Yeah, absolutely. So with our fiber optic service, once our main line is dug up through the ground, any individual who wants our service we go through multiple phases, but essentially they'll run the fiber from that main line from the street up to the individual's home. On the side of the home, we call it a NID, or a network interface device, which Dan is showing you right now. That'll go on the side of the home with the fiber essentially coiled into it. And we only do that for individuals who sign up for our service.
Okay, so the fiber gets into that black plastic box. It's adhered to the home, even if it's a brick home.
Yep.
Okay, and those fiber optics, then you have to hook it in on the inside of the house as well, right?
Absolutely. So our technicians, they deliver a white glove delivery service with our fiber optics. So they actually run the fiber from the outside of the home to the inside of the home, putting that fiber directly to the back of the modem. So we don't use any coax whatsoever. It's all fiber directly to the back of the modem that we provide at no charge.
And that's impressive. And you will put the hookup where the homeowner wants it in the house?
As best as they possibly can, yeah. So with the technician, when they run the fiber optic lines from the outside in, they'll set up the modem and router. But on top of that, they'll actually go throughout the house to do speed tests, every corner, nook and cranny and whatnot. And the white glove service that Kyler was just talking about basically means that if the homeowner needs help setting up their smart TV, laptops, phones, or whatnot, just pass along to the tech, and they can help get you squared away. So that's a service that they offer.
Okay. So the line itself is for the internet,
Yes,
Correct.
sir.
but also for smart TVs?
Yeah, because it's internet. So
Okay.
with the smart TV, you probably go on it, log into your Wi-Fi settings, and get connected. And so whatever previous internet provider you have, it's almost the same concept. But a lot of folks, once all of your equipment and devices are disconnected from the old Wi-Fi and get connected to our new Wi-Fi, I don't want to say it's a learning curve. It can be a hassle for sure. But that's what the technicians are there to help out with.
All right. Caleb, when I first spoke to you, we spoke on the phone. I told you the situation, and you took my name, put me on a wait list, I guess, or a first come first serve list. Okay. We talked about you asked me about what kind of speeds I'm getting now, and I think Kyler, you mentioned, we pay for up to 300 megabytes per second, but you sometimes get less. I will attest to that. Not that I know what 300 megabytes per second look like, but I pay about $95 a month for that service. You offer a no contract, no equipment fees situation where you can offer on a monthly basis for 250 megabytes per second, but that's upload and download for $55 a month.
That's right.
And tell me about the $85 a month program, because that's more similar, for instance, to what I have.
So with us, like you were mentioning, we offer two different packages. The $85 one is a gigabyte upload and download speeds. And the upload speed is the important part because people that are gaming, working from home, stuff like that, uploading is primarily what they're using the internet for. But when the copper was actually placed in the ground, like Kyle was mentioning from like the 60s and 70s,
Yeah.
upload speed wasn't really a thing, which is why I can't really do it. But nowadays, it's primarily what everyone's doing. So with the gigabyte plan for $85 a month, it's 1,000 megabytes both upload and download speed. And then for people that are looking for a reliable internet connection at a lower price, we have a $55 a month plan that's a quarter gig, like you mentioned, 250 megabyte upload and download speeds. So those are the two packages that we offer.
Okay. Why would someone not opt for the 1 gig over the
Well, first
quarter
off,
gig?
most people do.
Yeah.
But some people that are, older, not really using the internet as often, they'll get the $55 one.
And
But most people,
they'll think it's lightning.
yeah, because it's still a lot faster than what they're getting now.
Exactly. Exactly. I remember way back in the early 2000s, we had dial-up service.
I don't know what they're going to do about
Dorothy, they're laughing at me like I'm Father Time.
They're making me feel old because I remember dial-up.
Dial-up is like having a rotary phone,
Uh-huh.
which I grew up with as a kid.
Yep, me too.
My finger was red.
Yep.
Dialing, redialing, no push-button phones.
And God forbid you make a mistake.
Oh my God.
And you hated those zeros too.
So we've come a long way, and it just seems like the technology is moving so quickly. Let's come back in the second set. Let's talk more about the system and what's in it for homeowners and for businesses. Right? This is not just residential. This is commercial as well.
So we primarily focus on right now residential.
Okay.
Just while we're getting our infrastructure put in the ground.
Okay.
We may pivot to businesses. We do provide service to businesses.
Okay.
It's just on a kind of one-off situation right now, but we primarily focus on residential.
Okay. The name of the company is Ripple Fiber. We want to come back and talk. We have a lot more questions to ask you. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our second set of All Things Moore County. We're with the Moore County Powers That Be for a company that has made its presence felt in Moore County called Ripple Fiber, specializing in fiber optics versus the old traditional method of cable wires for more efficiency, for higher speeds, and for lower costs. Caleb, we were at the end of the first set. We were talking a little bit. Dan pointed out the black box that goes on the outside of the home, and then there's a Nokia. Is that a router? What is that? I don't even.
It's a router modem combo.
A router? Okay.
So once people get hooked up with us, we actually provide that for free.
Okay.
There's no equipment cost or anything like that.
And what about when you sign somebody up? You advertise no contracts?
That's right.
So you go month to month?
We do go month to month.
So how can you do that if you're a startup here? It becomes very not cost effective if somebody tries your service for 3 months and then they call you. You got to come back out again, pull the equipment out of the house. But that hasn't happened.
No, so essentially what'll happen is if we're confident in the services that we provide, especially like we were talking about earlier with that white glove service with the technicians. Typically we don't see very, very much returns and very much churn. But in the off chance that if there is churn, all that individual has to do is take that equipment. We've got a local office here off of 211 heading towards Seven Lakes on West End.
Yep.
We've got a local office. All you have to do is return your modem and router combo and any Wi-Fi extenders if they were granted to you by the technicians. And once you return all that, you're no longer obligated to Ripple Fiber.
Okay. So one of the major differences, I'm trying to get this in my brain, between fiber optic and the traditional cable method of hooking up is the upload speeds.
Mm-hmm. Upload and download. So with fiber optic internet, you get your true speed. So if you're paying for the 1 gig or 1,000 megabyte upload and download, you're truly getting the 1,000 upload and download. Same thing for the quarter gig. But one thing I do want to bring up, just for full transparency, is let's say someone were to sign up for the 1 gig service, right?
Yeah.
And then they have an old iPhone 6 and they do a speed test.
Okay.
That old iPhone 6 is not going to be able to get the full speed of the 1 gig just because the technology is not compatible. So that's one thing that we like to be transparent about.
Okay, you're going to phone service now. Now
He was just basically talking about if you did a speed test on older equipment, you're only going to get the speed that equipment is allocated to. As time progresses, obviously there are upgrades in infrastructure and upgrades in devices, such as modem and router combos, phones, TVs, and things like that. So he just wants to be transparent. If someone orders our service and does a speed test on an older device, you're not going to see that gigabyte speed because the older device doesn't accommodate that speed.
So if your cell phone is 3 years old,
You're not going to get the full 1,000 megabytes per second speed because your cell phone it's not compatible with it. You'll get the max that cell phone has to offer.
but what about if you're just using it for your home computer?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
if you're
it'd be fine.
exactly, so if your computer's hooked up via Ethernet,
Yeah.
so it's directly hardlined to the back of that modem and router combo, you will see that 1,000 megabytes per second speed. And our technicians actually go around the house and test the speeds on our devices to ensure that you are getting the speed that you pay for, rather than getting a lot less than what would happen.
Okay, this is not a softball question. I mean, it's a question that. Do you have any competition in Moore County?
Yes.
Yes.
The biggest internet provider that we see in Moore County is going to be Spectrum.
Okay.
But
I mean, do you have any fiber optic competition?
The only fiber optic that's present in Moore County is going to be Brightspeed, and they're only particularly focused on not residential. They're focused
Commercial?
more on commercial.
Okay.
But that's the only competition that we've seen here in this area. We've seen a little bit of Brightspeed in some areas that are being built and developed that they kind of worked a contract towards. But other than that, no, we haven't seen a lot of fiber optic competition.
Okay, so Caleb, the home that we had originally spoke about in Knollwood, I had transferred you to the buyer, and they're moving into the house in April. When do you think the service in Knollwood, the Knollwood area, will be up and running so that she will have service? Because she works from home, and it sounds to me like she's going to really benefit from this service.
So in her area in particular, that was actually the first place in Moore County that we did construction. So with them, we're looking to basically end of this month, early April is when we're like planning to start hooking up homes.
Okay.
But we've had a lot of interest out there, so it could be towards the end of April before she actually is live.
Okay. So people, do they pay you when they sign well, there's no contract. Do they pay you monthly? Is that how it works?
Yeah,
They-
absolutely. So our monthly billing starts on the first of the month.
Okay.
So whenever they sign up for service online, it prompts them to put in their credit card information during the pre-order service. That's just purely so that way we have something to bill once they're up and running. So they're not billed until we have a technician come out and actually hook them up and hook all their equipment up in their home. Then they're a billable customer, and that's when they'll be billed.
Okay.
So anything prior to them going live, there's no charges or anything like that.
All right. So let's say somebody wants to sign up on a 2-year contract. Is that something you do?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't do anything with contract. We're all about the freedom and flexibility of offering our services. And we're just confident in what we're bringing to Moore County that folks are going to be happy switching over to Ripple Fiber.
Okay. So these, the tubes that are on the table, these have been put in the ground already in and around the Knollwood area that is ready to go?
Knollwood, Longleaf area. We're working on some bits of Pinehurst itself, like near Donald Ross.
Right.
And a good chunk of the construction is already done. So what you're seeing here is a bundle of all the fiber optic lines. And every single one of these individual lines will go directly to someone's home. So every line is for one person's home. It's not like one line is going to 5, 6, several people's homes. So everyone's getting their dedicated fiber optic line right to the back of their house.
Okay. So you have to dig a ditch from the street to the house, bury the line, and have it appear somewhere on the side of the house, right?
Correct.
So it's semi-invasive, but nothing major.
And
Right.
before we even go to anyone's home, we actually have the technician come out there and do a consultation. So essentially, he'll go inside the home if the homeowner grants him access and speak with the homeowner and say, well, you've got an office on the right side of your house, so you'd like your modem router combo to be on the right side of your house.
Makes
Perfect.
sense.
Well, if we can accommodate that, we'll do that for you. Let's put that black box on the right side of your house
Right.
to ensure the modem and routers in the place that you desire.
But that could be more digging ditches around to get to that point if it's from the far side of the street.
Correct. We've even gone as far as go underneath individuals' driveways to put it in a specific area that they want it. And I remember particular when Dan and I went down to Matthews to do some training, we had saw them go underneath the driveway and put it on the other side of the house because that's what the customer or client he wanted that, so we just ended up doing it for that individual. So we really do try to accommodate any request that anybody has where on the modem and router and the network interface device goes on the home.
Yeah, I can think of a lot of areas in southern Moore County where we have pockets of service where there are dead zones, and I don't even want to mention specific areas, but it's a big deal because in order to get spectrum out there, they charge the homeowner so much money to start to lay lines, and that's a cost, and sometimes neighbors will share in that, but there are some areas that aren't serviced by any fiber optic or cable. So these multicolored lines are in, and these will continue to go underground to the house.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Are there any hidden fees or costs to your monthly charges?
No, sir. So your monthly bill will be that $55. If you get the quarter gig, that's all taxes, fees, equipment, everything included is in that price for $55, respectively with the gig package for the $85.
Okay.
And also, there, because it is Moore County, there is a military discount. It's a 10%.
Yep. 10%
military discount for folks that sign up with military, active, or retired.
Okay. That's good to know. Is this information all on your website?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's wrap this set up and come back in the third set. We're speaking about Ripple Fiber. They are about to make a strong presence in Moore County and hopefully provide some faster internet service for people where there have been complaints, where there are pockets. And it's because of the tower. No, I'm talking about cell phones now. I'm sorry. But we have that issue as well.
Yes.
We have a big issue with that. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be back. Welcome back to our third and final set of All Things Moore County. Ripple Fiber is our guest. They're a company that has started to make a strong presence in Moore County, providing fiber optic internet versus the traditional cable. At the end of the second set, Kylar, I had a misspeak, which is completely like usual for me. I got off onto the cell phones. We have in Moore County pockets of areas where we drop calls, where internet connectivity is not as good as some others. And you were making a comment to me at the break, and I'd like you to...
Yeah, absolutely. So I was essentially the cell phone conversation does work with fiber optic and any internet provider as well, because if you're in an area that has no cell phone reception whatsoever,
Right.
but you have a strong internet connection, if your phone has the ability, you can enter Wi-Fi calling on your phone, which allows you to call on Wi-Fi. So it'll add that level of being able to communicate with other individuals that way if you don't have any service whatsoever.
So putting fiber optic in enhances obviously your internet, but also your smart TV features and possibly your phone connectivity.
Absolutely. So if anyone's ever experienced when their TV is, sometimes it's blurry, sometimes it's clear, you see that shift in that clarity, that has to do with the upload speed that we were talking about earlier on the segment. When you have that symmetrical upload download speed, it allows you to have a more consistent view and a more consistent picture. So you're going to have that clear video throughout the whole entire stream. You're not going to see that little circle that tells you that you're buffering. That's also a factor of that upload speed. Which you'll see a huge difference switching to any fiber optic company.
So as Dan was saying early on, as he called it, the coaxial, you meant cable. With the traditional cable service, the upload speeds are not as good.
They usually vary. They can either be the full speed that they say, or the download speed will drop off. So it's not consistent. Whereas fiber optic, it's consistent all the way from the main road to the house itself. And with coaxial, they tend to have one line that feeds in several different of your neighbors' homes.
That's true. That's
So-
exactly right.
And Matt, like I'm sure a lot of folks when they were watching the Super Bowl, I know I was having issues back in West End when I was watching this past one.
Yeah.
Every now and then it would just freeze, buffer, kind of like what Kyler was talking about. The picture quality would deteriorate over time, and it's just because more than likely everyone in the neighborhood is watching the same game at the same time, so our internet speed wasn't able to hold up to it.
Is that because you were streaming?
Correct.
Okay, so if you're streaming TV, you're way better off with fiber optic than you are with traditional cable.
Correct.
Okay, that was pretty good. I got that. Right? I mean, okay, I get
Absolutely,
that.
yeah.
But I don't have that issue because I have Spectrum TV. So I'm not streaming, so I had no interference with my picture or anything like that.
Although sometimes that can still be a problem. Like he said, if everybody's watching the same program at the same time,
Right.
a lot of times it can't handle it all. So like even if you're using like cable from a particular company, you can still have the same problems.
Okay, good to know. The setup costs, you guys have been in business about 3 years. The startup costs are tremendous. But that's where you're sowing the seeds, literally and figuratively. You're sowing the fiber optics. You're offering a very competitive package with the benefit of higher speeds. But it takes time to turn a profit.
Correct.
So you guys are in a grow slow mode. And do people understand that when you are digging in and around their neighborhood? I mean, so for instance, in Southern Pines, we're very fortunate that you're doing it here. You must have picked it because you've heard complaints about the connectivity.
Absolutely.
But you're only digging on the utility right-of-ways of homes. You're not digging on neighbors' properties.
Correct. Yeah, and that's Dan has done a phenomenal job here in the Pinehurst market, just informing everybody about that process. I think that's the number one thing that we want to take away. That we want everyone to take away from Ripple Fiber is that we need to be able to properly communicate the construction process. We're laying all of our bespoke infrastructure in the ground right now. We own all of it. And so we've got to let people know, hey, we're going to be digging in the utility right away, but you have to remember what the end result is going to be. And the end result is going to be you're going to have this fiber optic internet speed that's not going to have to be replaced. We're future-proofing ourselves and future-proofing all the residents here in the Pinehurst Southern Pine market.
I wish Duke Progress Energy could hear you. With all the telephone poles and all the money spent on trimming the trees and the trucks around, the bucket trucks are everywhere. Oh, well, they were for winter. I mean, we become suspect to an antiquated system that requires a lot of maintenance.
Right.
So what you're doing, once it's done, it's done.
Right.
And then people can sign up knowing that you've laid, I want to say cable. What do you call it when you lay?
I say laying out the conduit.
Yeah.
Okay, the conduit. Okay.
The mainline conduit.
Okay. To differentiate between the coaxial cable. Tell me about the response you're getting. Caleb, you're on the other end. You're on the end of a lot of phone calls.
That's right. The response has actually been amazing so far. So
People aren't suspect, or they're like suspicious, or
and
who?
sometimes like when we start digging in the utility right away, because it is right at their yard.
They ask you over for dinner.
Not that. But like sometimes you will see some like skepticism there, but we've done a really good job of informing people before that happens.
Right.
So like we put door hangers on every single door in the neighborhood before we do any construction at all. Let them know what's going to happen. During construction, I go out there and I talk to residents. So if anything is going wrong at all, we have a ticketing process where we can go online and get that fixed. So, and that's kind of what I tell people too, is that can happen. So we've done a really good job talking to everybody before any construction's actually done. So by the time the construction's there, they wake up and they've already known about it. So that has, I think, helped with not having much problems at all.
Communication is going to be key, especially with the construction. We were talking about it earlier. Imagine if you wake up one morning and you see someone just digging in your yard, and you assume it's your yard, but it's a utility right away. The sales team with Caleb, they've been doing a great job of door hanging several times, but not just door hanging is going to get the message out. So we really try to make an emphasis on knocking on doors, having that face-to-face communication, because, we don't want to hide or stray away from the conversation of the construction process. And we also really do enjoy talking to HOAs, POAs, and whatnot, just so that they can let all their residents know. And we've seen a really positive response from areas where we were able to communicate with all the residents, communicate with the HOA so they can communicate with the residents on top of that. And realistically, it's over communicating, but we rather over communicate to the residents, let everyone know about the process, rather than just them being caught off guard. And one thing I do want to mention and circle back to is the fact that before any holes are dug, our team, they reach out to 811 with the locate, so water, gas, electric, other utilities. NC 811, they'll locate their lines. And again, before we start digging, our team, they go out and they take pictures and videos of where they're going to begin the construction, just so afterwards they have a comparison, so they're not leaving the neighborhood a hot mess. And we do have a good restoration system set in place.
Yep.
So as the team's going through and digging the holes, filling them back up, they'll do a temporary restoration where they may leave straw, hay over the holes. And then once the whole entire project for that particular build is 80% done, a restoration team will go back in and begin the full restoration process.
Cool.
And should anything kind of go wrong with the restoration process,
Right.
Residents are always more than welcome to contact us, reach us, or what I recommend, go to our website to log a ticket, just so we know we need to send them back out there. Because the biggest thing is we just got to communicate with everyone about the construction, how it works, and who to go to if there's anything wrong.
Okay. Review for me one more time. The areas in Southern Pines that have had the conduit laid and are going to be ready for service in a couple of months. What areas?
It's going to be Longleaf Community,
Pine Grove Village.
Near Aiken, Oak, Yakins Trail. That neighborhood was the first neighborhood we went into.
Oh my God! Like going back in time.
Yeah, and it was a good response in Yakins Trail.
I bet.
Yeah, and then top of my head, am I missing anything else?
Knollwood, obviously.
Knollwood, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
then,
we do have different phases that we're going to be rolling this out into.
There's another area that has really obvious pockets, and that's Indiana Avenue, which is an east-west road, going across Fort Bragg Road, going from May Street in the center of town out Indiana. You drop calls all the time, going out towards Sandhurst, even Weymouth a little bit on the left-hand side. Both sides of the road, you just drop calls. I don't know if it's the hills, if it's the towers. Now I'm talking about cell phone. But that's...
Yeah. But I would recommend if anyone is interested, our website does offer interested in our service, so it doesn't sign you up whatsoever. It just essentially it tells us who's interested, right? If it's in an area where we don't intend to build, and if there's enough interest in that area, and if it makes sense financially for the company, it makes sense for the city, we'd love to go to that area as well. So we do have an option on our website. If you're not in an area, it'll allow you to show interest, so that way we can see all the individuals who's interested in our service. And then if you are in an area that we're going to service, you're able to pre-order it.
And so your website is pretty intuitive. It's just ripplefiber.com. People can go to it. Okay. Caleb, let me go back to you. So Malia, who is moving into the home in Knollwood, you've got her name on the list.
That's right.
What's the next step? What should she be doing, or what should you be doing to get her service hooked up at this point?
Basically, what she did, she pre-ordered the service, which reserved her spot and gave her priority.
Okay.
And the next step,
she gets priority. You're right.
for the installation.
She's worth it. Okay.
Now the next step is going to be we reach out to her and we schedule a time for a technician to come see where she does want the fiber installed to her house.
Okay.
And he'll walk around with her, find out the best place, and then once that's done, she'll get another call for the technician to come out there and actually hook her up to the service. So at this point, all that's basically happening now is that once we're ready to start hooking up, we'll give her a call and they'll figure out where she wants it.
And one last question. Is there any sort of special electric hookup lines in the house that the homeowner needs to have to accommodate either the modem router or just plug in?
Just plug in. Yeah, our technicians are they're well equipped to do any modifications if needed for the home.
Okay.
So
is there a charge for that?
There is no charge at all for that. No, that's all included in that flat price of $55 and $85.
That's pretty good. Okay. You guys have been very straightforward. I mean, people get suspicious sometimes when they see monthly prices and then they get their bill and they go, "Excuse me," but that's not the case here.
Absolutely not.
These are your advertising fees that are competitive and, in a perfect world, more efficient and more cost-effective down the road.
Absolutely.
We'll keep an eye on you guys. I hope things go well. Caleb, thanks for your help.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah. And Dan, thank you.
Thank you.
And Kylar, I appreciate you guys coming in. I hope you're getting the word out there in many different ways. And this is just one way to do it, I guess.
Exactly.
Absolutely, and we really appreciate you. Thank you so much for having us in.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We want people to know what's going on in Warren County. I mean, it's important. Ripple Fiber is the name of the company, and you can call Caleb, 910-550-1191, and I guess start a conversation.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Everybody, have a great week. Thank you.